And away we go.
It's mostly a here we come.
Yeah, well, right. And here we arrive.
That's right.
This is the Jimmy Doan Show. All of y'all out there. Listening now, Gene. Yes. This is Jimmy Doan Show. I'm Counselor Curtis. Jimmy Doan is here with me. That's him right there.
Oh, Gene?
No. I was just, oh, there he is. Hey, Gene. No, I was talking about you.
Okay, yeah.
But,
Jimmy Doan, right here.
there he is. And, this is the 10th of March, 2019. We do this twice a week, 4 o'clock Wednesdays and Sundays. Join us and check us out on YouTube for a timestamped copy. I'll post up within a couple hours after we get done here. So, what is happening?
Well, what's happening is we slipped over in daylight saving time, so
Well,
we actually made it. I mean, now that my computer, of course, updates automatically, so and the phone does, so that's good. Okay, I do this at the beginning of every show.
do not say in no particular order.
No. No, it's in a very definite mingled order.
Okay.
It's a throw it up in the air order. No, it's about West Wing.
What?
I'm still on West Wing. I've talked about this, and I was
Aaron Sorkin, you owe us money.
boy, he should too. I'll tell you. Well, let me tell you. I was watching today, season 5, episode 4.
Sorry, Gene.
Yeah, season
ahead.
5, episode 4. You have to watch this one.
What is it?
It's about North Korea. Now, this was
Do
written.
they call them the Norks?
No, but this was written. Remember now, this was written in '93, 16 years ago.
Oh, did you check it out? Okay.
And it is like it could have been written yesterday.
Okay.
Unbelievable. And they had also a couple of other things, but this is one of the best ones you'll ever see. That it literally could have been written yesterday, and it was just really amazing. And there's a couple of little catch-up things in it, but
Did it end with nuclear devastation?
no, it didn't. But I'm not going to give it away. But it was fascinating. It was a cliffhanger. For a while, and unless you've watched it a lot, you know that they're going to kind of resolve most of the stuff, but they don't resolve everything. And it's once again, attractive people, good fun, the whole deal. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that I'm stunned. I was just watching it before I came over here, and I thought, oh my God,
That's just Matrix programming is all that is.
Well, you can call it what you want, but I'll tell you right now.
No, I mean, that was the programming for the Matrix now.
Oh, right. Oh, exactly. That's right. It popped up. It knew damn well what I was going to do. That's right. It sent me over to the couch and clicked it on. Taiwan asked U.S. for new fighter jets.
I'm going to fire up the transporter early today. If I can figure out where Taiwan is. There it is. Kablamo!
Okay. Good. Okay, well, that's good. I'm in a religious place. Okay.
Some happy village.
That's it. Taiwan has made a formal request to the United States for new fighter jets to defend itself against increasing Chinese threats. Well, I'm blown away because Taiwan, is about as big as, I don't know, Maryland or something. I mean, it's not big.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Tiny.
It's economically.
Oh, no, it's economic powerhouse. No
Yeah.
question. And of course, it turned out that in 1979, the U.S., I won't say buckled, but we decided to recognize Beijing as the capital of all China, including Taiwan.
Right.
So it's been, they've had back and forth, and China has from time to time threatened to send the Chinese army, across the water there, and they could do it in a heartbeat. So, but.
It'd be interesting.
It would be, but still, what they have apparently their fighters in Taiwan, which we sell them, are date from the 90s. From the 90s. So that's 20 or 30 years old. And now we want the brandy new ones. They want $13 billion, which of course the Lockheed and the other people are wanting. But my only question was, you can't really seriously think you're going to overwhelm the Chinese army if they decide to come in there.
Well, I think you can deter the crap out of them, number one.
Okay.
And that may be enough in certain circumstances. And also, this could be part of a gradual accumulation. I don't think they should capitulate. I don't think that they should...
Accumulation, what do you mean?
Well, they could acquire these fighters and then later acquire some others and slowly... build up to something.
Well, they want a bunch of 66 F-16Vs Apparently
That's a lot of planing.
66, and that's
Isn't
right,
it, Gene?
along with all the spare parts and the training.
Well, of course.
13 billion.
What are you gonna do? No parts?
Yeah, right. No part. Well, the point is, with you've got a pretty good armada with 66 of them. But
You do. That's a swart. A sortie.
that's right.
of
That
large-
definitely is a So, but I'm just. It's interesting that. I guess it's great for the Lockheed people or whoever makes
Sure.
makes these fighters. But
Look, and it's also to have somebody in the West, right there off the coast of China.
well, of course, they're in the process also of redoing the Spratly Islands or whatever those islands are. They're making new islands in
Yeah,
the
in the
sea,
South-
in the
in the South
China,
China Sea
South
there.
China Sea, and daring anybody to come through there.
Right.
So this is always it's the
Always good to have some of our guys.
well, you say our guys, but I mean that's
I trust the Taiwanese, the Chinese nationalists in Taiwan more than I do the communists in Beijing.
really.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They-
I trust the merchants in South. Where's that? There's a place down in South China where they have all the shoe manufacturers and everything like that. The people that are selling stuff.
Hong Kong.
No, well, Hong Kong too, but the actual people on the ground, you kind of trust them.
Well, yeah, I think Taiwan is more invested. I mean, I don't think we're in any.
No, but I just thought it was interesting that this is probably they've asked for them. Who knows if they're going to get them? Okay, now this is the other thing. We're getting on to the election, as you know. The Democratic candidates are literally bumping into each other on the trail. They have started now. There are currently announced 15 or so, something like that, but potentials. I mean, Biden has not in yet, and what's his name, Beto or whatever. He's not, not technically not in, but they're going around.
Well, and they're in the polls.
And they're absolutely in the polls. I mean, Biden's like number one,
Yeah.
and he's not even in yet.
I'm telling you, Biden. If they don't, it's too bad because I think Biden is the biggest threat to Trump. Honestly.
No.
Yeah, I do. I know because look, here's the thing.
What's the biggest threat to Trump is the economy, but go ahead.
Well, right. I meant from their side. Though.
Okay.
They still have to have somebody to oppose him. And the thing about Biden is that he's safe. He's trustable. When you look at the rest of the people in the field, it's only Bernie has a trustworthiness that's anywhere close to what because of his record, just because of his consistency.
Yeah, okay.
And Biden's been all over the place, but he's been in politics for so long, everybody feels like they know him.
Yeah.
And sure, he's got a couple of little baggage, creepy things here and there.
Hadn't.
Well, exactly. And now he's got more than most because he's been there for such a long time.
Right.
And actually, I think that is why he won't make the Democratic primary because they'll pick him apart with those issues. And the now judgmental left, one little slip up here and one little slip up there, they'll go back after him here and there. But if they don't chew him to pieces, I think he has the best chance against Trump because he is the most authentic when he speaks. He can speak off the cuff. He can do the old grandfatherly thing. He can do the they'll put you all in chains thing. He's good just on his feet. He's, I think, an underrated speaker in that regard, just because it's not that he's forceful or charismatic or anything, but he just comes across as authentic. And so I think that could carry the Democrats at the end of the day. When you look at the other people on the list,
I was going to mention a couple of them here. We'll get to that, but
I mean, Warren,
yeah, well, this is
Harris.
I was looking at some of their issues, but let me just finish off with this.
Sure.
It says another batch of candidates will be rubbing shoulders at the South by Southwest Festival, which I think is like now, and that's a big deal in Austin or wherever it is. 8 declared candidates are going to make an appearance along with Beto or whatever. So they talk about who they are. And due to appear less, Beto is also, O'Rourke is supposed to be there as well. So that's one of the things that they are literally, when they book the planes, because a lot of them go commercial, they are be in the same plane. Hey, how you doing, Bob? Yeah, okay, fine. What's
right. Debate.
Yeah,
fight,
debate.
fight.
Well, I mean, and when they book these planes, I'm going to imagine they book with their handlers or their advisors and stuff like that. So there's like for each candidate, there's like 6 people on the plane.
Right.
And so, it's interesting, and they're all bumping into each other. I thought,
Well, that was funny when they showed up, as they do, with their big caravans in little tiny towns.
Yeah.
And then it's overwhelming.
Right.
The 2 giant buses and
Yeah, right.
several security cars and a couple of handlers, like you said, and then all of a sudden another caravan just like that. And
well, the thing
it's
is
more than the
about it is,
population.
in a lot of this stuff, they all have to go to the same thing, like this South by Southwest.
Right,
I mean,
right.
this is a big event, and I would imagine there's a, an old home week or something in New
I think
Hampshire.
they're wasting their time, man. I would do the Calvin Coolidge at this point.
Yeah,
I'd sit on my porch.
Yeah,
And
well,
go
that's-
out there every day and say, hi, this
Right.
is my issue today.
yeah.
Or
Okay,
tweet
well,
it out or
that's
whatever.
interesting. Well, a little bit. We're talking about the politics again. We're talking about the Democrats. The House passes a sweeping election reform bill. Now, this is one of the things that I just go because they do this all the time. The House, they passed a massive voting rights, campaign finance, and ethics reform package. They do this almost all the time. A centerpiece of the new Democratic majority's agenda is known as H.R. 1, House Resolution 1, or H, and it's dubbed "For the People Act by Democrats," and was approved along a party line vote. And it makes far-reaching changes in the electoral campaign finance system, along with ethic reforms that target President Donald Trump and his administration. So this all goes through, and it's a party line vote. Well, duh, it's never going anywhere, obviously.
Yeah. This is an advertisement.
Yeah, I know.
And it's hideous, I guess, that they spend this much time and effort on literally an advertisement.
This is what they do. I mean, you got to do something. But I thought was interesting. They say, they're not for the special interests. A national expansion of early voting. Early voting, by the way, started yesterday here in Florida. And I get to vote for 2 candidates.
I like the early vote. I mean, for me, as you know, as we talked about, I think you should have a month to vote.
Yeah, see, I don't. I've told you this before because what happens if the guy dies or something?
Then you re-vote. You go down there or whatever, or your vote's lost. I mean, either way, how often is that going to happen? That's not going to happen.
Well, no, but there could be. The one thing that did happen, for instance, with the Trump was right there in October was the pussy grab.
So what? So if you cast your vote too early and you want to change your mind, too bad. You just did it. You should have waited till the last day. And if you wait till the last day and then you miss it, well, you shouldn't have waited till the last day. My point is that there's no reason to have it on a single day.
No, we don't. Nobody has to run a single day anymore. That's all states have at least 5.
And it's because of the early voting.
5 or 6 days of early voting.
Right.
And of course, you can always do an absentee ballot. It used to be to do an absentee ballot, you had to literally be in a foxhole somewhere.
Right, exactly.
Not anymore. I can go down right now and get an absentee ballot.
And I think, and so that's why I'm not worried about it. That's why I don't really care. I don't think people are really disenfranchised because of that.
No, I don't either. And that's one of those campaign things where they're talking about voter suppression. Everything crap. Well, if you can't get an ID,
right.
I was looking at, for instance,
But
here in Florida.
That's another advertisement, or not advertisement. That's a power grab.
Right. Well, I was interested to see that, and of course it's not true, but they sent us a sample ballot. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, this particular election we're going to have actually 2 in the next 2 weeks. We have to have a little quickie runoff for the mayor, and then there's another one where there's only 2 candidates running for the city commission. But I was reading the ballots, all the big page, everybody gets one. And what was funny about it was it said, you have to be a registered voter, you have to bring your ID, blah, blah. You don't. You can walk in there and you have to go to your own precinct. No, it turns out that if you go to another precinct and you say who you are, I don't know exactly what you have. I don't think they make you actually show. I think if you tell them who you are, they got to let you vote. At least they do a provisional vote. So I'm pretty sure that's it. Anyway, but as far as I'm concerned, you should have a voter ID. You should have a picture ID.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think the mark of citizenship is the right to vote. If you're going to give it to everybody, then
the privilege to vote, we say, is. It's not necessarily a right.
Well,
I mean,
whatever.
If you're, now here in Florida, if you've been was a felon and now you're not, you can now vote.
Right.
But you couldn't before.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the damage caused by voters that aren't registered.
There's this thing going on. They want to lower the voting age to 16. And I'm thinking, Jesus, at 16, you could promise me chocolate cookies, I'd vote for you. So anyway, the House, this is one of the things that's along these same lines. The House Democrats overwhelmingly reject a motion to condemn illegal immigrant voting. That is to say, there was nearly every House Democrat opposed a measure condemning voting in U.S. elections by illegal immigrants, which is fascinating because the bill said if you're an illegal, you can't vote. And they said, no, we're not for that.
Right. That's not, I mean, not, you don't mean fascinating. I think you mean revealing.
Yeah, it's totally revealing. Well, it's interesting because it is interesting because the idea obviously is that they're for all the illegal voting.
Of course.
And of course we've
those
seen
people will largely vote Democrat, and they know that, so it's to their benefit. It's a power grab, and who are the illegals anyway? What harm are they really going to do? I guess it's easy to justify if you're a Democrat to say, well, what's the worst that could happen? They vote for a different person or the wrong thing on the ballot or something.
Yeah, but we all have to pay for it.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah,
I mean,
so
the actual producers in this country only have a vote also, but the non-producers also have an equal number of votes.
Yeah.
And they get to take from the producer. The money comes from nowhere except the producers.
Well, that's true. That's true. We're in the hole at this point.
We're in the hole. The House Democrats introduced a resolution calling on Mueller to report to be made public.
Yeah.
Now that was supposed to happen like this week or something, maybe next week. I don't know.
Yeah, they keep saying this week, next week.
They keep moving the goalposts or whatever you want to call it.
This is interesting. I think this is a stupid move because if you think about it, this is the Democrats and they're. So the situation you have to understand is that even though the Congress has power over the Justice Department in terms of they can make laws and that kind of stuff, the Justice Department, even if they're reporting to Congress, can withhold information from Congress.
You can know, but I can tell you right now, I guarantee you that if Mueller turns over the report, it's going to be, as they say, heavily redacted.
Oh, and it very well could be.
I can tell you right now. I've seen literally. Somebody showed one time the report that has been sent to Congress, and they held up one of the pages. Virtually every single line was blacked out.
I've seen that a bunch of times as well. But here's the thing: that's only if they believe that Mueller would try to protect Trump in some way. And I'm not convinced that he would. I think he very well may just lay the whole thing out there for everybody to see. I mean, they're claiming with this move that Mueller has bad information about Trump and is not going to reveal it for some sort of security purposes or some sort of not giving away his processes.
Really?
Or something. Well, yeah, but that has to be that because what else could it be? They want bad information about Trump, and so they're presuming there is bad information, and Mueller's not going to release it.
Really?
Well, that's what they would have to be because they're trying to force him to release it.
Well,
even before it's public, which I think they're going to step in it because if his report exonerates Trump, then they're going to force it to be put out. Well,
the spin doctors are going to take what. My guess is, as with so many things in politics, you're going to be able to take, as Scott Adams says, you're going to watch the same movie with two views.
Well, here's the thing. I have read some of Mueller's earlier filings, and they read like showpieces. They don't read like typical legal filings. Now, I'll give you an example. When you file something in court, there will be different sections of the document, and one section will be something like undisputed facts.
Okay.
And then another section will be things like disputed facts.
Okay.
And another section might be opinions about things. Well, his filings have these incredibly embellished opinion sections.
I see.
With these very concise fact sections.
Okay.
And so it's obvious that he's trying to paint a picture for one reason or another. Now, you could argue that he's trying to paint the picture to make his prosecution easier, to get the judge on his side. A lot of prosecutors will do that. They'll throw your guy under the bus over and over again to try to make the judge rule in your favor.
Well, how about so speaking of pictures, you remember the guy that was just sitting in front of the Native American and of course the picture was he was a horrible person, the kid.
Well, yeah, and when I say picture, I'm saying, of course,
no, I know that. I know
word
that.
picture.
Word picture.
But the other reason is it could be because Mueller is in some ways a political operative. That is to say, well, he's allowing himself to be exploited in that regard. That is to say, all he would have to do is be open to the concept of publishing negative information, and he could claim it as prosecutorial discretion that it's fine to release that stuff. But these guys, their move is that they don't think he will, but I think he would. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see pretty soon. Well, also it's interesting that, and I forget who it was who was talking about this, but the Nadler has decided, to send out, as somebody said, ruin the lives of 81 people by demanding their particular documentation. They're going to have to go back, and at least one or two of the people who got the letter demanding said, "I'm out of here, forget it, I'm not going to do anything, go away."
Well, yeah, they're going to scare off a few people.
Right.
Like
but I
that.
just thought, what is amazing about this, you talk about grandstanding, it's interesting because we don't trust Mueller.
We who?
Nadler and the Oversight Committee.
Well, right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, or not bizarre, but I think it's foolish for them not to trust Mueller.
Yeah. Okay, the next thing I've got here is the 2020 Democrats are under pressure to make climate change
Aha!
the number one on everyone's mind and so forth. And what they're going to do is but this is our climate, huh?
Well, there's nothing wrong.
Okay, just a little right. Here's our climate change. Well, what's fascinating in a way is they've gotten, there's half a dozen of them that are saying this is the central existential threat to our life. This is what it's all about. Scare, boogeyman, whatever it is. And the worst thing the Democratic presidential candidate, according to some environmental activists, is to be a climate denier. And they're going to try and paint everybody with being a denier if you don't come out 100% for the Green New Deal.
Right.
So you have to embrace the Green New Deal, and so they're going to be sure to force the issue against President Trump. Well, of course, a lot of people are sitting there saying, I don't know about that. One of the reasons is that, had all the co-sponsors and so forth, but one of the ways they're getting away with it is the California fires, the hurricane, the rain, the snow, and everything. It's like the Flash Gordon thing, stuff coming down.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I'm with Trump on this one, where he says, I dare you to run on the Green New Deal. I dare you, because the suggestion about how to do things in a green way are ridiculous. They're insane.
One of the problems you've got is that it's an emotional issue.
Right.
And so how do you counter an emotional issue with another emotional issue?
Well, I agree. You almost have to. It's super tough. I mean, there's not much you can do.
Because if you start quoting statistics, glaze over.
Right. I mean, all you can do is say no, and then of course you're just a denier.
Right.
But it's the only thing. If you think about it, the alarmists have a huge problem just right off the bat, and that is that anything that they can point to in terms of a measurement today or over the last 20 years geologically is such a tiny portion of time,
not even a blip,
that it's within the statistical normal variation, so you can't decide whether or not any of the current measurements are just weather and not climate. You can't. It would take something like if there were suddenly 150-degree days in downtown Los Angeles. Okay, that's off the scale. If the sea level suddenly rose by several inches or something. Okay, that's off the scale.
Well, I mean, now here's the deal, and I got to be careful about that because the sea level rises by several inches in a lot of places twice a day.
Well, exactly, and that's exactly the problem. That's what I'm saying is that the tide would have to be. In fact, you're exactly right. If the tide came up 5 feet above where it normally comes on some particular day,
lacking a tsunami,
right, and a major hurricane or something. If all of a sudden one day the high tide in Miami was washing through the streets or something, then you could say there's something outside the statistical mean. But there's just not. It's still, everything is still within a very tiny, tiny gradient. And so,
well, the thing about it, as I've said, as we talked about last week, the solutions to this stuff are untold trillions of dollars, number one, if you think you're going to do it. And
That is the public solution.
the public solution, the government solution is that, and a lot of us are sitting there saying, I'm going to keep my money rather than raise my taxes to 100%.
Right.
And I'm going to move to North Carolina. I mean, what the hell?
Right, or I saw a nice map finally, which showed a lot of greening in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
And
Of course, they're all upset about that because some of the permafrost is really this, that, and the other. Well, I know, on and on. Yeah, and you're going to do all. When you realize, and they have these models that they put, maybe I don't know, maybe 1,000 variables. I don't know, but mostly it's carbon dioxide and nothing else, and so. Maybe a little bit of methane or something, but then they have some temperature measurements. But there's got to be 1,000 variables in all of this stuff. Some of them are not much, but the point is you can't model it because there's 1,000,000 variables, and if you leave a bunch of them out, you can't just wash over them.
I think that exemplifies the statistical variation in the variability in
whatever's going to happen. If we're going to enter into a new ice age or something like that. Bring it on. I mean, I don't want you to. I'll find a way around it. And and of course, what they're always worried about is humans. The Earth isn't going anywhere, and most of the animals are not going anywhere.
Well, some of the alarmists, I've heard people say, well, in a few years we're going to create a barren, sterile planet, and I'm like, really? Like the Chicxulub impactor exploded with 240 teratons of TNT, force, and it didn't wipe out life, and we're going to do it because we built a few extra fires accidentally. I doubt it. But even if all of the numbers, even if you accepted the worst possible Al Gore scenario, we still have Gen 4 nuclear reactors ready to go. Fusion right on the horizon. Carbon sucking machines in production right now.
Well, what's interesting is that there have been local climate changes in years gone by. When you go down here to the Mayan people and this kind of place that were of these thriving civilizations that covered thousands of square miles, and they basically were wiped out because of an extended drought or something.
Well, I have a theory about that. I think that some of those cataclysmic changes happened all at once. I think most of them happened all at once.
Well, certainly when you have a 4-year drought.
Well, but what I'm getting at is what happens is the reason you have a 4-year drought is because you have a Category 7 volcanic eruption.
Oh, okay.
And it blocks out the sun for 4 years.
Well, I think that I mean, that has happened, I know, but my point is that if there had been the volcanic eruption that had wiped out the Mayans, it would be in the soil someplace.
Well, that's what they're finding.
Well, I know.
There's a bunch of missing events. That is to say, there are evidence of events with missing craters and things like that. So as they're piecing those together, a lot of them fall into place with other disasters and exterminations and things like that. I mean,
just as a really quick little branch off, I noticed that they have now new satellite images that they're doing.
The LiDAR?
Yeah. And they're finding that the cities down there that they have now thought for decades, if not a century or more, were thus and so size, have found that they're really huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it just were monster places. And so
lots of people
out there doing it. Okay. I like this part. What broke Venezuela's economy and what could we do to fix it? Or how can we fix it? The U.S. presumably would lift sanctions if Maduro, Chavez's chosen successor, were ousted, and Guaido, the head of the National Assembly, were to assume power. So Guaido has already announced that he's going to put in his cronies into which, remember now, oil is 98% of the government's revenue, and of course it's gone way down because of mishandling, corruption, and the oil price. Mm-hmm. So anyway, they're going to include, so he's expecting to include industry veterans and so forth. But what he wants to do is to make Venezuela an investment-friendly attitude. So here we bring her, huh?
He better.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But the point is, the point is that what he's going to do, they're going to pass some stuff that says, okay, we're now open for business. But
that's not going to do it, man.
No, man. I'm sorry. There's no good for you because we've seen this. We've seen this before.
Exactly.
We have seen this before.
They have to somehow assure the international community that private property will be respected.
Yeah.
The socialists never see this coming. That they don't think that the market sees them coming.
Right.
Like, what do you think's going to happen? You think there's a lot of attractive investment headed to Venezuela right now because of Maduro?
Well, 3 million, it says here, 3 million Venezuela have gone.
Have exited.
I'm out of here.
And gone. And I read an article last week about billionaires leaving the UK
Yeah.
for tax.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But bye-bye.
Yeah, that's right.
Because why not?
I remember one guy, one of the more famous French actors.
Depardieu?
Depardieu, yeah. He moved to Belgium or something like that. I'm out of here. I'm not paying taxes anymore. No,
But that was when they were going to do the wealth tax over there.
Right.
That was, yeah, they had a huge, they were going to do a big Elizabeth Warren confiscatory
Wealth tax.
capital extraction tax.
Yeah, well, like they did in Cyprus, they did that. They scooped the top of everybody's bank
They'll be
account.
shaving you.
Jesus.
Your
So anyway,
account
the
today.
nation's. This is what I don't know how they're going to handle. The nation's inflation rate is running at an eye-watering annual rate of 375,000%. I mean, I don't know how you can put this, but when your bolivar is after 1 year is worth 375,000th of what it was on the first of the year. What are you talking about? And the minimum wage now is up to, I don't know what it is, a couple of thousand bolivars a week or something. I mean, these guys are surviving on nothing. So anyway, I just think, the only way, the only time that it's ever happened that inflation has been stopped is when they've just revamped the entire supply. But if they have a central bank, it's going to go bad again. So, unless you have a commodity pricing.
Well, and this is a lesson that countries learn only every couple of hundred years. Really, what happens is, and the cycle repeats itself.
It does.
We all get into a giant fiat currency cycle, and paper money was outlawed in China in like the 1300s
Yeah.
because they had this kind of a wipeout, and they
Yeah.
were like, "Wait a minute."
Well-
And of course, our dollars have two signatures on them because they are supposed to be a promissory note. And that's how secure they're supposed to be. And then there's
Well-
still two signatures on them, and they're now worth nothing.
But the United States government on more than one occasion has reneged on the contract.
Yeah.
There- I mean,
But
there
at least
has-
there was a contract at one point. I mean,
That's what I'm saying is that you had paper money. I mean, I have some that is redeemable in gold coin, signed by the Treasury of the United States and the assistant somebody else signed. This is absolutely is deposited in the Treasury on your account, payable to the bearer on demand. And if you go up there, they say, no, that's one of the old monies. We don't do that anymore.
right. So you want to know how Venezuela could get out of it? Same thing we said last week about Cuba. If they were to take all of their gold, divide up their money by how much gold they have, say every one of your dollars is worth a piece of that thing, we're going to have sound money, and we're going to pass some kind of hideous constitutional prohibition against seizing property and expropriating businesses for the government. And
Yeah, well, good luck on that.
yeah.
I mean, it's just. I mean, to say I think I mentioned this before. The first time I went to France in the early '60s, I was there, and they had the new francs and the old francs. It was 100-to-1 depreciation.
Oh, jeez.
So you had the new francs, and they were different color or something like that. But that was the reason was because they were carrying around.
Well, we've seen it a million times.
Sure.
And this is, of course, the strong Bolivar.
Right.
After the
Right.
other one collapsed earlier, just a decade ago. And the question is really, is the United States ever going to get to that point, or I guess when, if we're going to get there?
I tell you, it's been so slow because it's been, in just about 100 years, the dollar has depreciated by, 97 or 98%, and
Somehow it's been just slow enough.
just slow enough. Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of, they've had to rush in and shore up the dam a little bit a couple of times. For instance,
Yeah.
in the 70s, when all of the old people were starting to eat cat food because their Social Security payments, they didn't have COLA in the old days. Cost
Right.
of living adjustment. And I think it was in the 70s they finally, the old people were starting going up there in their wheelchairs and say, hey, I'm tired of eating cat food. I used to, on my check, I used to, whatever. So
It would be nice to have just one currency tied to something of value.
Well, and as I say, I think without any doubt, it should be gold for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't tarnish. So the problem with silver is it tarnishes and it can look pretty. It actually can go away. Well, no, silver would be all right, I guess, but it can't be mercury. So
I think it can be anything, honestly. But I mean, it's better if it's something fungible and transferable like
yeah,
gold.
that's right. Well, that's the other thing. Is remember, the thing about gold is it's worth X times whatever silver is. So if you have a back in the old days, you had a $20 gold coin, as they say, you could buy a nice suit. Mm-hmm. Well, that didn't kill you, and I mean that's $20 gold piece. And as I say, for whatever gold is today, $1,375, you can still buy a pretty good suit. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so they we talked about the fact that the Democrats are all going after the economy, or after the climate. And they've all talked. They have the quotes in here: existential threat, and so forth and so on. Okay. Now we have some more AOC news.
Okay.
AOC blasts capitalism as an irredeemable system. And actually, she said something in here that she didn't know was right.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. She says, call
Right.
capitalism an irredeemable system that is to blame for income inequality. Which, of course, what's so funny about that is that capitalism is the reason you have income equality.
Right.
I mean, you have the way you can. The ladder is there's no steps. There's only steps on the ladder that you go up one by one, and you can get rich.
She just doesn't have a lot of reference, I don't think.
Well, no, I know. She's 29.
Incredible for a girl with an economics degree, but go ahead.
See, so she was down there at Southwest, whatever it was thing, SXW.
Oh, yeah.
And she was an enthusiastic crowd on Saturday at South by Southwest. She directed some of her sharpest comments at an economic system that she said values profit over people. Well, one of the things that's interesting is if you value people over profit, you're not going to get anything.
That's not the dichotomy.
I know, it's not. But my point is that without profit, of course, the whole thing collapses.
Right.
But it says here, capitalism is an ideology of capital, which is right. Mm-hmm. The most important thing is concentration of capital to seek and maximize profit. Okay. Mm-hmm. At any cost, and that comes at any cost to the people and to the environment. Well, historically, it has come at a cost to the environment because the original steel mills and everything like that, and just waters.
But not any cost.
No, not any cost. But she doesn't think that all parts of capitalism should be abandoned. For me, there's a question of priorities, and right now I don't think our model is sustainable. And she's right about that, because here's what she says. She says, we should be scared right now because corporations have taken over our government. Well, it's partially true. The fact is that the lobbyists, are the ones, that is not part of capitalism, when you have the government in there with the guns telling you what to do one way or the other. Pure capitalism is totally voluntary. No guns involved.
Yeah, but it's not the businesses taking over. What's happening is the businesses are influencing the governments to take over.
Right. Exactly. They are hiring the government as their enforcement arm.
Right.
And that's what has with the regulations. I mean, they go in there, and that's one of the things we've seen recently is that some of the big businesses that people are talking about breaking up, like Google and Facebook, and those got their big lobbyists up there saying, well, wait a minute, we want a little bit of regulation, but here's what you do, and don't hurt us.
Well, of course they're going to say that kind of stuff. It just what we should have are broader prohibitions on those types of government efforts.
We did have it. It was called the Constitution.
The thing is that when the Constitution was drafted and everything was put together, there weren't a whole lot of huge multinational corporations like there are today.
No. So what?
Well, they didn't contemplate having a structure where those things would be free in and of themselves. They just never contemplated that something like that.
They may not have, but they were hoping that the Supreme Court would hold back what they have. Supreme Court, as we know in the Dirty Dozen, the Supreme Court has gone with the lobbyists to some extent. For instance, as we talked about before, the Wickard thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they voided the Commerce Clause.
Right, and the goal. Well, that's the thing. I mean, obviously, the federal government's expanded dramatically. And yeah, the courts sanctioned that, and I guess the courts could have stopped it at any turn, and that would have been
Now, you know something that's interesting, as just a quick aside over here?
Sure.
Have you noticed that the word sanction means just the opposite from itself?
Yes.
I thought that's fascinating. You know,
Yeah.
that if you're as a foreigner learning English, you really have to know the context.
There's a few words like that that are kind of interesting.
I always laughed at that. So anyway, the deal is that she doesn't understand. I don't think she understands about the voluntarism and the way that the system actually works. And of course, she was probably taught out of Samuelson's book, which is Keynesian.
Yeah, I mean, and let me give you an example of a constitutional amendment. That would help. Something like separation of bank and state.
That's yes, no question. If in fact, it was separated.
It was, but we didn't have an actual prohibition, or maybe actually.
We did.
We did.
They had to pass.
Right.
They had to pass the amendment, for God's sakes, to get the Federal Reserve.
Right.
So that's I mean, the Federal Reserve Act. I'm sorry, they don't know if it's an amendment.
No, but
the taxing, of course, was they had to pass an amendment for the tax.
Right.
But the central bank, of course, was a. Jeez, I mean, that's we'd done.
Well, it was ruled unconstitutional a couple times.
Yeah, I know it was.
And so I guess but yeah, that's we need to get back to that and to the lessons of this. But I don't blame capitalism for trying to take over the government that's there. I don't, because you have to expect that. Look, the capitalist's job is to maximize profits.
Right.
And they're not supposed to do anything else if there's something else that's if there's a forest that has to be burned for that to happen, then that's what they're supposed to do. If it hurts something else, but it still maximizes profit, then it's up to the something else to exert itself, basically. Now, I mean, I'm not suggesting that because I think companies have to have a benevolence about them generally, or they die. You can't have something that's just a horrible machine of production for very long. I don't think. I mean, I guess I don't know. Maybe there's been slaves and there's mining operations with kids. They put down holes and stuff like that. But from my perspective, if there's competition, I would think that the market would alleviate those conditions, and basically good companies would survive. Like today, you see these efforts where these companies are coming out. We're like the shoe guy who every pair of shoes you buy, he donates a pair of shoes to some starving kid in Ethiopia. And there's a bunch of, I've heard that millennials, one of their requirements for working at certain companies is they want the company to have some beneficial impact on society.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
And so I can.
But you don't do it by law.
No. But I think that to me is capitalism, and I think that it naturally grows in that direction, unless you get people who are able to use force by law and pervert the law. I think it's legal perversion, the stuff that they do to keep out competition. But anyway, we're
off the charts there a little bit. Yeah, we could have an entire discussion on that. I'll tell you right now. I mean, and it was speaking of which, I was reading Ludwig von Mises the other day, and he talked about some of this stuff, and that was called, I think it was in the one called Bureaucracy, and it's a thin book, but it's worth it. It's worth a read. Anyway, let me go on.
Yeah.
This is to continue with the what I started off with on the West Wing about being. About North Korea. It was really fascinating. But interesting, today, North Koreans will go to the polls today, or actually, I guess it was yesterday now over there. Aren't they a day ahead of us?
Yes.
Okay, yesterday. For an election, there can be only one winner. And so the Kim Jong-un's working party has an iron grip on the DPRC or whatever. Okay, every 5 years they have an election. I mean, they have an election. This is the people that are elected, and they are Pyongyang's most enduring slogan: single-minded unity. That's their single-minded, and there's only one approved name on each ballot.
Man,
voters have an opportunity.
One approved name.
Wait a minute, it gets better. Voters have an opportunity to cross it out. before casting their
And
ballot, but in
committed
practice,
suicide.
that's unknown. And so the funniest, they said the vote, the last one, the turnout is 99.97% of the voters, and the vote was 100% in favor of the named candidate. So
Wow.
there you have your,
There's voting for you.
there's what people talk about. It's called the DPRK. It's the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you complain about that? The DPRK, what a name!
You get to vote.
And they having a vote.
Yeah.
And you think this is some kind of gulag over there? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons I have an entire chapter on voting in my book.
Oh, is that right? Which book is this?
My Free Public.
Oh, Free Public. Is that on Amazon?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Free Public on Amazon.
But it's not free.
No.
No, okay.
Well, it is if you have Amazon Prime. I think you get a digital copy.
Okay, yeah, cool. Don't
Otherwise,
forget
it's a
it.
buck.
Okay, Cuba taps into high-end luxury tourist market. You ready for this? In Havana, there's a shop selling a camera for more than $25,000.
Damn.
Roughly 850 times the average monthly wage in Cuba. This exclusive camera store and other boutiques featuring A-list brands like Versace and Armani are located in a shopping gallery on the ground floor of the swanky Grand Hotel Manzana. Now, it turns out that of course, the average wage in Cuba is around $30 a month, and it says that the hotel's not exactly looking for the local talent. It attracts a clientele of private airplanes, princes, and celebrities, according to the general manager, Xavier whatever. It's the first ever 5-star establishment in Havana, opened in 2 years ago, 2017. And it's interesting, it's run by the Swiss. And it's the first genuine luxury hotel in Havana. And it has a 1,000 square meter spa, and all the rooms are at least 40 square meters, which is like, not that, it's about 450 square feet, which is, a hotel room. But the price is ranging from $370 a night to up to $5,000 for the presidential suite. But what's fascinating is, we've talked about this before, that if they would open up and let Holiday Inn or somebody down there, they'd give these guys a run for their money in a hurry. Because even at the Holiday Inn, you'd be hard pressed to pay $5,000 for a presidential suite.
Yeah.
So I just think it's interesting that even they have realized they had the Swiss in there, and the Swiss went and I guess they're making money. Of course they're making money off the people that have their own Gulf Streams, but.
Interesting. I'm not clear why. I guess people would be traveling to Cuba of that caliber to look for potential investments.
No, they said on the article, they said the view is fabulous, and it's in downtown Havana. It's old. You get to see the old place or whatever it is, and
So it's just Havana.
yeah, pretty much. I thought interesting if somebody's done that, but you'd think that the powers that be, up the road there at the Capitol building would say, wait a minute, just a second here.
Well, they're probably in on the deal.
Well, no, I'm sure they are. So speaking of Spanish people, thousands of protesters take to the streets of Caracas amid a nationwide Venezuela power outage. Mm-hmm. The power went out off and on for 3 days.
Nationwide?
Nationwide. Thousands of people took to the streets in Caracas amid a nationwide power cut that plunged crisis-hit Venezuela into further chaos and desperation.
How many thousand square miles is Venezuela?
Pretty good size.
It is.
Yeah, it's, I don't know.
50,000 square miles or
I don't
something?
know, it's half the size of Texas or something.
That's 125,000. That's a lot.
It's a bunch. It's the largest country. It's it's not anything like Brazil, but it's,
right.
It's
big.
Yeah,
right
it's
there on
large.
the equator.
Once again, it's almost impossible to communicate because everything was out. No internet, no nothing like that. The power had been restored in some areas of the capital for a few hours on Friday, but then got shut down again. Maduro and his ministers have pinned the outage on sabotage from the United States.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, okay. The Guri hydroelectric dam, accusing the U.S. of waging an electric war against Venezuela. And they singled out. Wait a minute.
It
Local
could be us.
guy. They singled out Rubio, our senator here.
Oh, yeah?
Our senior senator.
Yeah.
They single out him as the criminal.
He brought down Stuxnet.
I guess.
Let it loose in their thing there.
I just think.
Wouldn't surprise me.
No, I know, but it's so funny that people are buying this. Rubio forgot. Now, I'm no fan of Rubio as far as Cuban because he's one.
Right.
He's one that wants
He
to.
doesn't have the power to do that, though.
No, I don't think so.
No.
But he's one that wants to keep the embargo on Cuba.
Yeah.
And that's stupid.
He can't do anything by himself.
No, he can't. There's 99 other people there that
Right.
get the vote too. you
Right.
know. So I just think it's
He has no executive authority to do anything. Is what I'm saying.
No, but no, you and I know that.
Right.
But I'm saying that as far as Maduro is concerned,
Cut the lights.
that's right. It's the government of the United States, headed by Marco Rubio.
right.
The San Francisco libraries. This hits home to here. San Francisco's libraries as sanctuaries for the homeless. Hollywood movie captures reality. Two things here. It turns out that in the libraries now, they've gotten to the point where they're actually apparently pretty friendly about it. The burgeoning number of homeless folks who have discovered welcome mats at the public libraries all over America. And now there's a Hollywood movie that is going to come out. And what they've done is they're going to film a public library all about homeless people in Cincinnati, I think. Yeah, Cincinnati
You
Main Library.
called this one, man. I have to say.
Yeah.
This is, folks, if you want to read a funny article, go to the Jimmy Doan Show website.
Yeah.
On Papers.
Oh, that's right.
You'll see.
If you look up Jimmy Doan, I don't know if it still is, but it used to be the number one citation was
Right.
Jimmy Doan is an idiot,
Right.
and it had to do with a letter that I wrote in 11 years ago to the Gainesville Sun.
Yeah.
And it said, "Let's time to pull the plug on the libraries." Well, you'd have thought I was a child molester. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Hitler.
Hitler. We love Hitler compared to Jimmy Doan. So anyway, but if you look at that, and I'm
Yeah,
telling her.
you like pissed off some influencer or something.
Oh, totally.
He
It was-
posted on his site like.
So anyway, I was talking about this, and I said at the time, this was 12 years ago. I said it's become a haven for the homeless. I mean, they go in there to take a leak, and they and sit outside and blah blah blah. So anyway, here's the burgeoning number of homeless folks in SF have discovered the welcome mats, and they go in there and they read the paper and they hang around and so forth and so on. What's interesting is they're making a movie, and it's interesting because it's the Hollywood lefties are making this movie. They've gone and put a movie that's coming out next month. It's called The Public, and it's a drama about a group of homeless men who take over a Cincinnati Main Library one winter night to avoid freezing to death. And it's by Alec Baldwin, Taylor Schilling, and Emilio Estevez, and Cheese Rarity in films about the homeless. It captures reality. Well, who knows? Again, you got to ask yourself, a library, what is it for again? Oh, I'm sorry, it's a homeless shelter. So it is here in this town, I can tell you. And and it's interesting because on my tax bill, the library has its individual and special allocated funding. It's a separate line item you don't get to cross it off.
How much is it?
It's the budget for the library. I will say this: the budget for the library here, the public library. Now remember, there's law libraries, there's medical libraries, and there's school libraries that are not
we're
affected.
inundated in libraries.
Yeah, we got libraries everywhere. In fact, there's a couple little places over here I've noticed that they've got the little free neighborhood libraries. Take a book, leave a book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's,
Oh, okay.
it's like a little hut.
Yeah.
And there's like maybe 30 books in there or something. Take a book, leave a book. I thought it was kind of cute. Anyway, it's 17 or 18 or 19 million dollars for our library.
What, you don't remember what your share was?
My share?
Yeah. Well,
No, I don't. I don't remember my share. The you could do
20 million bucks divided by
by
80,000. 100,000.
well you got to figure there's probably divided by roughly let's say 100,000.
Okay.
So whatever that is, I forget. I mean, but it's a line item, and it's significant. I forget what it is. It's not anywhere as much as the school. But,
Right.
okay, the next, one of the little lightish. I'm getting on my light items here. Actually, this is my light item. See how we're doing here. Yep. Okay, good. The Bikini Barista coffee shop in California has license revoked after city council deemed the outfits too revealing. Now, I'm laughing at this.
In honor of Councillor Bart, I have assembled a few of these wholesome baristas And so you can see these are normal girls.
Right.
So.
Okay,
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, well, as he said, you give me an unconventional coffee shop in California is finding itself at the center of controversy yet again, as its servers use skimpy styles. Well, it's interesting because what he said was they unanimously revoked. This is in American Canyon City or whatever. They revoked the license granted to Bottoms Up Espresso. Bottoms Up Espresso. Okay, and critics argue the Bikini Barista coffee shop was operating more like an adult business than a cafe. And of course, the owner said, "Wait a minute, wait. You see this on the beach? These are people dressed in beach garb." And, well, it's questionable, but he says, "We are a very classy business and pride ourselves on customer service and quality drinks. We have a dress code that exposes less than you would say at a pool beach. And in fact," he says, "our dress code is, the costumes," he calls them, "are revealing to the degree that the business meets the definition of an adult business per the municipal code." So, as far as he's concerned, it at least, first of all, it's no more than you'd see on the beach. And number two, we meet the adult business code requirement.
There you go.
So anyway, I guess they revoked his license to serve coffee or something. I don't know.
I mean, you think about it. And here's my question on this issue. Who do you think complained?
Yeah, right. No, that's right. I'll tell you exactly who complained. I know who complained. The church lady.
That's it, man.
That's right.
Somebody's jealous wife complained about this. I mean, look, all right, so it's a strip club that serves coffee. Who cares? What's the big deal? It's amazing. Come on, man. Come on. What? How bad?
It's interesting because, we have one right down the road here. And actually, it's part of a little franchise, I think. The Cafe Risque.
Yeah.
Right down.
Well, yeah, that's not a franchise. That was.
I think there's another one up there.
He owned both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
He owned both of them. Okay. But it's, the girls they dress in nothing, but they're in a cage.
Well, it's not.
But you get hamburgers, coffee, you can get all kinds of food.
Oh yeah, breakfasts and everything. It's decent food.
24 hours a day, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I don't see any problem with this. It's crazy, and to me, it's ridiculous because obviously some busybody is over there.
Well, you see busybodies
ruining a business, wrecking these people's jobs. I mean, all these girls. They put all these girls out of work. I mean, hate licensing. Hate licensing.
I'm with you.
All right, I got a couple real quick things.
Okay.
You saw law enforcement real quick. You saw Smollett got indicted 18
Whoa!
months.
I mean, he's
Doesn't
going away.
surprise me, man, because
Really?
like I told you, but after the federal thing, once you get into that sending that counterfeit, whether it was anthrax or ricin and whatever he tried.
Oh, right, yeah.
Through the federal mail, man, you are asking for it and doing it twice within 2 weeks. He committed the hoax, and that wasn't good enough for him. He had time to think about it, see people who were probably scared about the whole issue, process it all, reconsider everything, and then do it again, double down on it, and then do interviews and everything. Man, I mean, it's just.
It was Tylenol or something.
Huh?
It was Tylenol.
Well, whatever it was aspirin, yeah. But whatever it was, it doesn't matter. I mean, the point
Doesn't matter, right?
It's that's hideous. And so now, you also saw this week Manafort got sentenced.
Yes.
To
and they talking about it, slap on the wrist.
People are saying this because they don't
It's
understand.
a lie.
It is. People they don't understand how tough sentencing is. I keep seeing examples of other people who got lesser sentences or more sentences for lesser crimes.
Mm-hmm.
And my thought every time I saw one of those is those people should have got lesser sentences.
Right.
I'm not buying half of the examples either.
Right.
They
had
some guy.
They had other examples where the average murderer spends only 6 years, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, and that's more or less true. There's an exception for murderers because oftentimes there's no witness. The only other person that was there is the person who got murdered, and so you have to plead them out to lower sentences because otherwise you're not going to get anything. You take your chances with a jury and they could walk because there's no other witness. So it's circumstantial evidence, and so murders have a weird thing, but. everybody should understand how charging and filing works in the United States, and that is, once somebody at the top makes a decision to charge, it goes whole hog. The prosecutors go all in. It's a super witch hunt on every area. They overturn every crime. They try to figure out whatever it is you're doing. So that's why it appears like Mueller is so rabid, because he is, because all prosecutors are.
Right.
And then what happens is the same thing that happened in the Manafort case, which is they start off and he's facing 304 years or whatever it is, and then they're like, well, or you can take a deal and we'll reduce it down to something where you're not going to die in prison. And everybody's like, oh, they're letting him off light. I'm like, are you kidding? It's just amazing. And then you had people talking about the rich-poor divide. People were saying, well, you get off light because he's rich. I'm like, no. There is a rich-poor divide, but that's not where it is. It's not in sentencing. It has to do with your bail, number one, whether or not you get to make bail, and also the quality of the attorney that you get.
Right.
Once you're at the sentencing phase, nobody gives you shit how rich you are.
Right.
You've been convicted, and it's just a question of... Now, it does play into a factor in one regard, and that is usually rich people are much more involved in the community. They do charity work, they employ people, they're valuable. So you can treat them with more kid gloves, because they're going to return to the community and be a part of it again, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's easier, sentencing may go easier on them for those reasons as well.
See, like Martha Stewart. She's back in the community.
That's it, man. She's
Michael
back.
Milken.
Yeah, exactly. They're back, and they should be. And everybody should get that opportunity, really. But that's not where the rich-poor divide comes in. Let's see. The pardon is unnecessary at this point, obviously. I mean, he didn't get 20 years, which is what he could have easily gotten, something like that. Also, the minority white divide that people always talk about, it's not what they think it is. I keep seeing this related to these criminal justice things this weekend. The reason it shows up is because there's really a class divide there as well. If you're in the lower class, you're going to get policed more heavily. And so whatever the makeup is of the lower class in that area is going to have more policing and more convictions and that kind of stuff. And also, we have a point system because we do this 304 years charging scenario. What happens is, a lot of the times, if you get arrested for something and they start to talk about 300 years in prison, you immediately start to look for a way out, and they offer it to you. They offer you a plea deal, which gives you a conviction, but no jail time, something like probation. You go from facing 304 years to probation, which, if you think about it, is just ridiculous. If there's any way you should be facing 100 years in jail, you should not get probation.
No.
And so, but that's the way we do it in this country. And what happens is, then you get somebody who's innocent taking a plea to get out of jail oftentimes because they're too poor to bail out.
Right.
This adds onto their record, and then you get a situation like these examples that we keep hearing about where somebody stole $100 worth of quarters and they're saying they're getting 3 years in prison. The only way that happens is if they have a history of doing stuff, a long history, because your past record counts against you.
Well, that's the 3 strikes and you're out business.
Well, there's that in California, 3 felonies and it's life. And so sentencing doesn't work exactly the way that people think it is, and it's more fair than people think that it is, but it's still incredibly harsh. It's incredibly harsh. So I think that Manafort's sentence was extremely reasonable.
You got music here in the background?
I do. Well, this is just a little. This is what
little
was
finishing up music.
Yeah, it was. We were finishing up, but and then finally, I'll just say, Brexit is this week, so watch for that.
Yeah. Let's see what else is this week. It's the equinox, not the equinox or whatever. Or have we?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's this week too. Yeah. Okay, a lot of things happening.
Yep. Well, hey everybody, thank you so much for joining in today. We really appreciate it. We had a lot of people today. Gene and Randy and Lori, Robert, Kelly.
Oh, Randy, good deal. I mean, let's see. I saw her picture. She was doing a New Orleans thing because she spent a lot of time in New Orleans. She's now here in Florida, but she was on Facebook. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. Feel free to share this with your friends. I'm going to have a time-stamped copy up soon, in about an hour. These tracks brought to you by Kevin MacLeod. We really appreciate him. I am Counselor Curtis. This is the Jimmy Doan Show. Come back and see us again next week at 4
On Wednesday.
on Wednesday. So, see you soon.